Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful story from the book of 2 Kings. It's a story that starts with this incredible, miraculous healing, but, oh man, it ends with a devastating lesson about the true price of greed. This right here, this oath, is the absolute heart of our story. With these words, the prophet Elisha flat out refuses any kind of payment for a miracle from God. Now, on the surface, that seems incredibly noble, right? But here's the thing. That righteous stand is about to unintentionally set a trap, a major test of character for his own servant, and the consequences are going to be tragic. Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story picks up right after this amazing event. A really powerful Syrian commander, a guy named Naaman, has just been miraculously healed of leprosy. I mean, his whole life is transformed, so he's overjoyed and he rushes back to the prophet Elisha, carrying all these treasures to show just how grateful he is. But, Naaman's healing wasn't just physical. It sparked this huge spiritual transformation inside him. This declaration of faith he makes, it's one of the clearest confessions by a non-Israelite you'll find anywhere in the Old Testament. The miracle didn't just heal his skin. It completely opened his eyes to a whole new understanding of who God is. This comparison gets to the very heart of why Elisha refuses Naaman's gift. See, in a lot of the ancient pagan religions, giving offerings was basically a transaction. It was a way to buy a god's favor, to kind of compel them to act. So Elisha's refusal makes this radical statement. The grace of Israel's God is a totally free gift. You can't buy it, you can't earn it. For the miracle's true source to be crystal clear, it had to be completely separate from any kind of payment. So instead of all this treasure, Naaman asks for dirt. Yeah, dirt. It sounds pretty strange to us, right? But back in the ancient world, deities were often seen as being tied to their specific land. So what Naaman wants is to take a piece of Israel's soil back home to Syria so he can build an altar and worship the Lord there. It just shows that his faith, while maybe not theologically perfect yet, is sincere and it's growing. Naaman leaves in peace. And you'd think, okay, perfect ending. But the story is far from over. The focus, the camera, if you will, now turns from the man who was healed to the man who saw the whole thing happen, Elisha's servant, Gehazi. And let me tell you, he saw things very, very differently. This is what's going on inside Gehazi's head, and it is absolutely chilling. He doesn't see his master's act of grace as some powerful spiritual statement. Nope. He sees it as a foolish, missed opportunity, a personal financial loss. He basically reframes grace as weakness and convinces himself that his own greed is just a form of justice. He even uses God's name to try and bless his own deceitful plan. And this wasn't just some passing thought. Oh no. Fueled by this burning desire for the treasure his master turned down, Gehazi immediately puts his plan into motion. He literally starts running to catch up with Naaman's caravan. Gehazi's lie is just masterful in its wickedness. He abuses Elisha's good name, he invents this noble-sounding cause, all to cover up his own theft and make it look like he's doing ministry. But the real irony here is Naaman's response. The guy is so full of gratitude that he insists on giving double what Gehazi asked for. He has no idea he's just funding this whole deception. And let's be really clear here. 2 talents of silver was an absolute fortune. This wasn't just pocket change. It was a life-altering amount of money. The tragic irony is just so thick. Naaman's sincere, overflowing generosity is now being twisted into the very thing that's going to cause Gehazi's downfall. You can see this clear 3-step progression into darkness unfolding. It all starts with that corrupt desire, that coveting in his heart. That desire then gives birth to an act of deception. And finally, the whole thing is sealed with an act of secrecy as Gehazi hides the treasure and tries to cover his tracks. So after stashing his treasure, Gehazi just calmly walks back to his master, acting like nothing happened. He stands there in front of Elisha, wearing this mask of innocence, totally clueless that his whole world is about to come crashing down. Elisha's question is so simple, so direct, and really, it's a final chance for grace. It's an open door for Gehazi to just come clean. But what does he do? He doubles down. He digs the hole deeper with another lie: your servant went nowhere. He is just hardening his own heart. And then the hammer falls. Elisha's prophetic insight just cuts right through all the lies. He reveals that he knows everything. But notice what he lists. It's not just the silver and the clothes that Gehazi actually took. It's the whole lifestyle Gehazi was dreaming of buying with it. The olive groves, the vineyards, the servants.
Elisha doesn't just expose the act, he exposes the greedy ambition that was fueling it. The punishment that comes next is not random at all. It is deeply poetically symbolic. The very same leprosy that was cleansed from the humble, faithful outsider, Naaman, now clings to the greedy, deceitful insider. Gehazi's spiritual corruption becomes a physical reality. That disease is now attached to him and his family forever. And this brings us to the story's powerful, tragic, ironic conclusion. The outsider, Naaman, he came with pride, but he left with humility and healing. The insider, Gehazi, the one who saw God's power up close every single day, was eaten up by greed and left with a curse. It's this stunning reversal of fortunes, and it's driven entirely by how each man chose to respond to an act of God's grace. So, what's the point of all this? What's the timeless principle we're supposed to pull from this whole dramatic account? What's the one truth we're meant to understand from the story of these two very different men? Well, here it is. Grace that is freely given must never, ever be turned into personal gain. That is the lesson that echoes down to us from Gehazi's costly deception. The second we try to profit from something that is meant to be a free gift, we put ourselves in real spiritual danger. It's a sobering warning that really challenges us to look at our own lives and ask a tough question. When we encounter grace, do we honor it, or do we see it as an opportunity?